We are live.
Thank you, Andrew. We are reconvening into open session at 5:01 p.m. I'd like to report that there was no action taken in the closed session. Dr. Holton, if I could ask you to lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure, if we could please stand. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. At this point, we're on point 5 of the Board of Trustees agenda, and it's the comment section. Subject A, comments and announcements by board members. And I'll do a roll call vote to see who has anything to say, anything they'd like to announce. So we'll start with you, Art.
Yes, I would like to say I'm sorry that we lost the school. I'm sorry for the people that lost their homes up there in Berry Creek. I hope everybody comes through it okay. And just wanted to show my concern.
Thank you, Art. Sandra?
I have nothing.
Thank you. Mark?
Stay strong, everybody. Praying for everybody. That's all.
Thank you. And Bill?
I just want to thank all of our staff who worked through the last week to keep the wheels on the bus, for lack of a better term, and do everything that they have to move us forward. And to any of our staff and anyone that's watching that's lost their home or, God forbid, a loved one, I want to express my sincere condolences and let them know that we're here for you. We're going to support you. We're going to do everything we can to make your life as easy as possible, considering the times that you're in.
Thank you. And I would just like the same thing out to the teachers and to our children. Thank you, teachers, for regrouping and shifting around and making it work the best you could. And if we have parents out there, I would like to say, we're doing our best with your children. Some of them are absolutely fabulous and seem unaffected at this point, and the other ones we are working really hard with. So I do feel I have an extraordinary amount of empathy for that group. I'd like to move on to comments and announcements by administration, and I think we'll start with Janet.
Good evening. I would like to say that I really want to compliment Andrew and Spencer for the fabulous job they're doing with managing all of the incidences from the fire. Teachers, I want to thank you for all your hard work. You've been trying to connect with your kids and give emotional support and stability to them while you're going through the same thing. So my appreciation and hope that your families are all safe and well. It seems like a lifetime ago. That was more than this last 2 weeks. It seems like everything before that's a lifetime away. I have been working on developing the continuity plan, which we'll talk about in a little bit. One of the things that I probably did drop is the report cards. We were going to have some meetings where we were going to meet with 3rd, 4th, and 5th, kind of go over and proof the report card that they worked on last year and see if anybody was willing to pilot the report card this year. But due to the fires, it just seemed like it was just one thing too many. So we're going to hold off and kind of bring that back in the spring and see if we want to move forward with it at that time. And other than that, just impressed with how hard everybody's really working together and pulling together in this community.
Thank you, Janet. Kim, Tyler?
Good afternoon. I just want to echo what I've heard others say. Not only that our thoughts and prayers are with the people who have suffered the challenges of the past couple weeks, but also being so impressed with the leadership and our board and our teachers and the way that OCESD always reaches out to offer support and caring to our neighboring communities when they need it. very proud to be a part of this district.
Thank you, Kimberly. Andrew?
Good evening, everybody. We're here right after a disaster, on top of another disaster, being the COVID crisis. And it has required a lot from a lot of people. I just wanted to call out Jim Campolo. He's been doing an amazing job helping arrange, cleanings and all sorts of things, and being real flexible and, helping keep the district, moving forward. And I also wanted to thank Sandra and Tina and Chewy and Stephanie and Angelina, who have been working hard to process a record amount of leave. With all the different new COVID leave laws, they've been working like crazy trying to get that all done. So I really wanted to say I appreciated that help. So, you think about, before the fire, you were already in disaster mode. So just thankful for all the people that have been working so hard to keep our school district operating and doing great things. So that's all I got for tonight.
Thank you. And Spencer, sorry.
So bear with me. I have several things to kind of report out because so much is going on. But first and foremost, wanted to reach out to those families in our district and in our neighboring districts that lost homes, lost property, and like Bill mentioned, hopeful that no one lost any loved ones. But we know that this is a very challenging time. And I wanted to let the board know that each principal is tracking down our families that were affected by the fire and doing all we can to support them, to link them up with resources in our community and our county, and also offering any other type of support that we can offer at this time, because it truly is a very difficult time for so many people. And so our administrative staff are working with their individual school sites to keep track of who those people are so that we don't miss anyone. And if you know somebody that we haven't been in contact with or have missed, please reach out to your local schools. Please reach out to me here at the district office because we want to support these people. I do want to thank our staff, both classified and certificated, for doing an outstanding job working through what is proving to be very difficult times. Staff who are helping us clean. We are working with outside agencies as well as our own staff to try to get our schools clean so we can get staff back safely onto our campuses, because we did have a lot of smoke and ash spread out at our schools, especially some of our east side schools and specifically Ophir. That was closer to some of the burn areas. Would like to update the board. I don't know if people out in the community know how great a board we have here in Oroville City, but Berry Creek School, which is Pioneer School District up in Berry Creek, they lost their entire school. And I reached out to their principal superintendent, Patsy Oxford, and said, hey, whatever we can do to help, let us know. And she emailed me back and said, Spencer, we're looking for space. And I said, absolutely, let me see what I can do. And I reached out to my amazing board on Friday and was able to get a hold of most of them. And I pitched an idea that we have 4 open classrooms on the backside of Ophir that would fit the size of the Berry Creek School perfectly, because they have 3 teachers, 3 full-time teachers, and then they would need an office, and those 4 portables would work great. And our board said, go for it, because we're all about helping our neighbors and helping our community. And so we've already in the process of moving that school as part of OFER for the time being. And I just want to applaud our board, and we'll be bringing more formal stuff and formal agreements in coming board meetings, but like to let everybody know what a gracious and supportive board we have for this area. And I'd like to thank my team. My team has been working so hard. I mentioned everyone in this district is working so hard, but my team, we are working tireless, long hours to make all this work, and I want to appreciate them. Also been receiving questions about where we're at in the waiver process. I did meet with a teacher group, I think about a week ago, and I had 33 parents on that call, and brought up the waiver. And of the 33 people that were on the call, we had affirmation of nearly 30 people who wanted to go forward with the waiver process. This board is in favor of the waiver process, and I'm working with our two associations, our two unions, to get final approval so we can continue to go through that process. That process, we were moving very fast in that process, and then we've kind of been slowed down the last 10 days or so due to everything that's going on. But we're still pursuing that process, and hopefully we'll be getting more information from our unions moving forward. Another question that's been brought up is, how are we ensuring learning is happening with our distance learning? And that's a really critical and difficult question to answer, because everybody's a little bit different. But what I can share with our board and our community is I know our teachers are working very hard to make this a meaningful learning process. We know just from the feedback already that this is a much better process than what we had in the spring. I know that my teachers are killing themselves trying to make this work and be meaningful, and we appreciate them for that. And we are doing assessments and trying to assess, how effective this is. But ultimately, we are just trying to every day make this process better and more meaningful for our students. And then I think that's all that I have to share with you this evening. Thank you, and please continue to stay safe. And I'll be updating staff as soon as possible. Also want to let you know that hopefully public will be back into offering food services next week. We're really trying to focus where we're cleaning so we can get those back online. But I will share with you, if you haven't already heard, that the high school district, Thermalito district, and Palermo district has graciously offered to help us feed families. Most of their services are Tuesday and Thursday around the noontime schedule at their schools. So if you're in need of that support, any one of those school districts on Tuesday and Thursday around the noon hour, they are passing out food, just like what we would normally provide. And they have graciously will accept any of our students at this time. I have agreements with their superintendent. So thank you and have a great evening.
This time I'd like to open it up for comments by the public. We'd like to extend an invitation to any interested parties who wish to speak on matters which are school related. You may email your comments or questions to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments and questions will be read into the record and/or addressed during the meeting. However, emails received without a sender's name will not be shared during the meeting. And I am going to call on Andrew to see if you have any emails in the backpack at OCESD.net.
Not at this time, no.
And I also have not, to my knowledge, received any emails regarding this at this time.
Okay, and like we have done in the past, should something come in, just let us know and we'll ensure that that gets sent to the record, even though it'll be out of order here. So we're gonna move on to number 6, public hearing session. The first subject is the 2020 Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. And I don't know, Spencer, did you want to kick that off, or are we have Janet go ahead and kick that
We're
off?
going to have Janet kick that off
Okay.
if she wouldn't mind. Janet, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Okay, Andrew's going to help me with a PowerPoint. I was going to kind of go through the highlights of the continuity plan. This plan was created this summer from the State Department, and the purpose of it is to really track the money and the dollars that we're getting for the COVID pandemic. And in this process, they have asked us to get input from a variety of community stakeholders, as they do with the LCAP. And the part of the process is we do a public hearing tonight, and then we'll have another board meeting in which the plan will be approved. So tonight's plan is a draft plan. And in this process, I've had a chance to talk to community members. We've met with different groups. I still have to meet with the 2 union groups, and I'm hoping to do that in the next couple of days. And then we'll take whatever feedback that we get from tonight's open session, and then we'll be making final adjustments and coming back to you for a final approval of the plan at the end of the month. So in our plan, if I could go to the next page, Andrew. So in our plan, different community members, stakeholders need to be engaged in the process. So to begin with, in the spring, Dr. Holton had published a parent survey in order to get feedback from the community on where they were at and where they wanted the education to go. At that point, I believe 67% of the people who responded, and there were 614 that responded to that survey, had said they wanted to go to traditional learning. So we started off the summer planning for that. And then as things changed and the numbers changed, we shifted to distance learning. But we did take feedback off that survey. We also, from that survey, Dr. Holton began leading meetings every Wednesday from July and August until school started. And in those meetings, we had up to 90 participants. We also had a variety of different stakeholders. We had principals there, teachers, parents, community members. It was really quite a wide variety of people giving input into the plan. We also had ELD. I had a DLAC meeting, and we met with the DLAC community and received some really good feedback and kind of the struggles of what parents are going through right now. And I also reached out to the community. So I contacted the Hmong organization, and they got right back to me, and I contacted other organizations as well. And again, their feedback really mimicked the same thing that I heard when we got feedback from the DLAC committees. And they were talking about what kind of support they would need at their home and some of the struggles that they're going through as they try to get their kids into the distance learning. Okay, next page. So with that, we took that input, and with that input, we needed to make sure that we addressed what their issues were. So at the parent and community input meetings, we heard was they wanted parent trainings, and some of the trainings would be, if you're a working parent and your kids are at home, how do you get your kids on for distance learning at the time they're supposed to if you're not at home? So I've contacted the county to see if they could help us set up some different parent trainings and how to help keep the kids engaged during the distance learning. We also heard their schedules, that they were having a challenge with the schedules. We are going to be offering an IFLC that might help some people who absolutely cannot make the distance learning work due to work or connectivity, different issues. The connectivity has been interesting because we originally started out thinking we had about 20 parents that couldn't get connectivity. And then as the high school came on board and Chico came on board and other districts came on board, we found those who could get on were starting to have issues with their connectivity. So it blossomed quickly and went from 20 to 113. And now the numbers are fluctuating based on how many we've gotten to get connected. One of the ways that we're getting the connectivity is we're having a staff member, after we order the hotspots and she gets them configured, is driving them out to the different families, checking to make sure that the hotspot will connect, and then giving it to the family with it all connected and ready to go. We also heard from the parent community that the working parents were struggling with how to juggle the work and keeping the kids on task when they weren't there. Okay, next page. So what we have done is we have looked at our in-person instructional offering, and that's one of the categories in the continuity plan. So when kids come back, what's that going to look like? So there has been a lot of purchasing and preparing and getting ready for that hybrid model when they come back. We have purchased a lot of safety equipment, and you can see the list of what we've gotten so far to help address when the kids come back on campus. We've also looked at the social distancing and have just, I think, pretty close to deciding we'd be on an A-B schedule, which means that we have one group of kids that would come on Monday and Wednesday, and another group would come on Tuesday, Thursday. Friday would be a distance learning day, and also an opportunity to really clean the campuses and sanitize everything. And this schedule would be because we want to maximize using our buses and working with the high school and making sure the most amount of kids could get busing services that we could have possible. As we work on the social distancing, we're looking at things of how to space the desks apart, how to make sure we have our lines spaced apart. We have purchased some desk guards for every other desk. So then that way, as the kids are working, that it would be another safeguard in not spreading germs. Then we also took a look at recess. And there's been some just different discussions, not final decisions on it, but some of the discussion has been staggering the recesses and trying to limit the number of kids on the playground at the same time. And as we get closer to bringing the kids back, I think we'll get more firm on that. But those are just a couple of the ideas that have been talked about in terms of how we're going to address it when the kids come onto campus in person. And part of this continuity plan is they want to make sure that we are keeping our plan so that as the kids come back, we make it as seamless as possible. So if we could go to the next slide, Andrew. So then the other is, what are we doing with the distance learning? So with distance learning for middle school, the state has mandated that we have 4 instructional hours. And they talk about it in terms of synchronous learning, which is the live where you're getting interaction back and forth with teacher and student, and asynchronous, which is really all the independent work, or it could be a video where they could answer questions and they could do it later in the day. Anything that's independent is considered asynchronous. Our middle school is set up so that it's 5 periods, and each period's 25 minutes. And the kids will, in the morning, starting at 8:30, they go from class to class, and they have a set schedule of when they need to log in and be at their different class. We have about a 5-minute break in between each of the classrooms. And then we have also small group instruction in the afternoon. And so the teachers are addressing this in a variety of different ways. At one point, we were doing 35 minutes for small group instruction. Sometimes they varied that a little bit based on what the student need is. Okay, and then for our elementary, on the next slide, our elementary, they have the same requirements of the 4 hours. But then kindergarten is only 3 hours, and they still have the same thing, that independent and then that live instruction. So the synchronous and asynchronous. And then in the afternoon, they do targeted small group instruction. So Dr. Holtham had talked about earlier that we're trying to test the kids. So part of the plan is that we test the kids, figure out which ones need the targeted instruction so we can accelerate their learning and kind of help mitigate some of that learning loss that may have occurred that last spring. And so we are in the process now of offering support systems in the afternoon to really get at a differentiated instruction so we can try and accelerate the learning for those kiddos that need extra help. Okay, next. So The other thing that we've been really looking at is creating a distance learning IFLC. We have had a successful IFLC program for many, many years. But this year, the State Department has come out, and I'll talk about it too in just a little bit when we ask for approval for this class. They've given some different structure to the IFLC. So same thing in terms of the parents, the primary teacher really in an IFLC program. And they're going to meet with the teacher once a week. That's the same as it's always been. But what does come out different is that there will also be weekly classes that the kids will need to attend. And they could be classes in SEL activities. They could be classes in STEM, social emotional learning, or the STEM is the science technology. And so it can vary depending on what classes they want to offer, but it will be part of making sure that we're checking in and doing synchronous learning with the kids. Again, I'll go into a little bit more detail when we go for the approval on the IFLC class. And then there's check-in with the family, which they've always done. The other thing we've done, that's good. The other thing that we've done is professional development. So before school started, we worked with teacher trainings, and we offered over 17 sessions, and we did it in the area of distance learning strategies, because it's different teaching strategies online than in person. We did some social emotional and quite a bit of technology so that the teachers could get more access and understanding of how to use different add-on programs to Google Classroom and Google Meets so that they could do a more engaged classroom. Our parent trainings, we offered them sessions before school started, and kudos really goes out to Renee Henderson, the principal at ISHE. She offered 6 different classes for the parents so that they could understand how to get into Google Meets themselves and help their kids how to get into the Google Classroom. And then another input that we had heard from parents is that there were too many programs out there and they were having a hard time understanding them all. So the teachers got together and we made the agreement that everybody would be using Google Meets and Google Classroom rather than Zoom, so parents didn't have to learn so many platforms. And then Remind in Class Dojo, we're doing Class Dojo at elementary and Remind for the middle school. And by having one communication system, that way the parents not having to learn a wide variety. So we did trainings on that before school started to make sure the parents knew how to use that. We trained them on how to get into the onboard, and we trained them on Acellus, which is that online program that we talked about at the last board meeting and board approved for. Our last trainings that we did were for classified. And on the classified, we offered them any of the trainings that the teachers were given, and we did that for 2 reasons. One, they were going to help support, so they needed to know how to work with Google Classroom and Google Meets. And we also helped them with strategies, because if they're working with kids reading in a small group session, they would be able to embed some of those strategies. And then every year, Kimberly does a training with our classified staff before school starts on special ed strategies. And so she met with them also when we were doing our first days of school, and she met with them and did some trainings with them as well. So what kind of supports are we doing for our students? When we write this plan, we are really needing to call out there. The plan is asking us to call out, what are we doing to help support our students with unique needs, our EL students, our homeless, and our foster youth? And one of the reasons we hand out all the Chromebooks and we're making all those visits and handing out the hotspots is really so that we could address the needs of all these kids that we have on that I just talked about. A lot of them don't have that technology at home. And so we really wanted to make sure that we had that in their homes. It's kind of cool because one of the programs that we have by having that access is Myon. And it will have, we don't have it yet, but we've ordered it and it's in process of getting set up. But it will be almost like the kids getting to have their own library at home, and they can pick books, select books that are at their right reading level after they take the STAR test. And never before have our kids and these different groups that we're talking about had that kind of literature in their own homes. So we're doing much of this to help support them. We also found, like down at the Y, a lot of our foster youth go to the Y, but they were struggling with access even down at the Y. So we brought hotspots down to the Y, enough to make sure that our kids could get on and be able to have access and connectivity to do their program. So grateful that the Y is supporting them throughout the day. And we were trying to help our foster youth by making sure they did get connectivity down there. Okay, next one. Another section of the program of the application is to talk about how are we addressing the learning loss that we had last spring. And one thing I want to say is I want to give a shout out to some teachers in Oroville who I talked to, and they showed me their test results and their results of what they did last spring when they were doing distance learning. And there are some teachers out there that did a phenomenal job and really had good learning growth, even in distance learning. So not all kids had learning loss, but we do know not all kids did well in distance learning. So what we are doing is we started the year out and they have different assessments that they take. They take an iReady and Illuminate assessments, and they have some early literacy assessments that they take. And also teachers will have their own systems of how they evaluate their students. And with that, we are trying to do the intensive instruction, which will accelerate learning. And that's that instruction that we talked about in the afternoon. So in the morning, a lot of the teachers are doing their synchronous and asynchronous. And some of that can be small group instruction because, for example, K1 and 2 typically do small group instruction, and that goes on. But the afternoon is to really help support the accelerated instruction that we're trying to address for those students who did lose some learning last spring. And then there's the ongoing monitoring. So we will be assessing those students throughout the year. Okay. Social emotional well-being. So on this one here, they're asking us, what are we doing that is helping our kids? And another shout out to the principals and the counselors, because during this time, they have really been trying to reach out to all those kiddos that are having a tough time and really one by one, getting everybody connected as best they can. And and they've been doing that based on student by student need and really supporting them in that way. In addition, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be moving forward with training. The staff has already been trained on PBIS, but we will also give it with a frame of, oh gosh, I just lost the term, but with looking at being very respectful to our community and making sure that as we do our PBIS, that it is with cultural literacy in mind. We're going to, at ISHE, they have done a lot of training on restorative circles or restorative practices. And I think she got into some circles. And our counselors have been going out, meeting with the kids that aren't connected and really trying to help them get engaged in the distance learning and try to help them figure out what the barriers are. And so we also are doing training on trauma-informed instruction to help with the social emotional well-being. We did that before school started, and then we actually had a training planned, but due to the fires, the training got canceled. So we'll have another training scheduled in another week that's really going to focus in on trauma-informed instruction, since that's so sensitive to what we're going through right now. Okay, next one. Family engagement. And so part of the requirement of the continuity plan is that we come up with what they call a tiered level of support. So what are we doing that is helping to help these kids get engaged, and how are we holding them accountable to get them engaged? So we have developed a tiered system, and in our first tiered system, we talk a lot about how to set up positive relationships in the class, how to do social emotional learning, making sure the kids have an opportunity to have feedback into the rules in the classroom. It talks about how to make sure the kids are engaged and welcomed, and the positive feeling that needs to be established in a classroom. At the same time, the office we'll be communicating, checking to make sure we have current contact information and checking in on attendance if the kids are not attending their distance learning class. There's, after we go through tier 1, tier 2, what you'll see is that we start to, after we've done all of the positive that we can within the classroom, then it kind of comes to a bigger issue and we try to figure out what kind of group supports can we do? How can some of those kids, we've tried everything in the classroom, maybe they need to have a support staff member where they go check in the morning and in the afternoon check out. And that's an effective way to help some kids that are struggling to get connected and really focus in on what they need to during the day to be successful. This is also where parents and counselors are going to start to do more home visits, and we would even send the SRO officers out. So what you see is we are trying to broaden the support. So now it's kind of school-wide supports at tier 2, and the office support is going from it being the office manager checking in to now our counselors and principals are getting involved. And then the third level of support is our agency referrals and our SARB process. We are not having county SARBs, but I do know that Renee Henderson, the principal at ISHE, is going to be supporting with doing kind of a modified SARB to go out and do home visits with the principals and trying to formalize and getting the parents to have their students engaged in class. And at that time, we'll also be doing more agency referrals. And it's now focused from being the proactive in terms of what can be done in the classroom to now who can offer the additional support and what systems do we have in place to help support families that need the additional work. Okay, next. School nutrition. So it asks, what are we doing for school nutrition? And our district has continued to do the grab and go breakfast and lunches. They do it from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, and they're offered at Oakdale, Central, and Stanford. Okay, next one. And that's just, I did a quote, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And I feel, and Winston Churchill said it, but I feel like right now, a lot of people have a lot of courage and they're really trying hard to make things work. So any questions?
Thank you, Janet. I think you gave a really thorough breakdown of our application, and thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had you on mute. Go ahead.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
We're going to move on to item B, adequacy of textbooks and instructional materials.
So go ahead, Janet.
All right, so this is just an annual hearing that we do. And what it does is it just verifies that we have the correct textbooks and enough textbooks in our district. And so what we're certifying tonight is math, English language arts, science, history, foreign language, and health are the categories that the state asks us to certify on. And so I'm here to say we do have the board adopted materials and we have them distributed.
Thank you, Janet. Item 7 is our action section. Are there any public comments on the action item? And at this time, I'd like to extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on items that are listed on the agenda. You may email your comments to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments pertaining to the items listed on the agenda will be read into the record during this time. However, emails received without a sender's name will not be read. And Andrew, I'd like to ask you if you have any emails in the email box?
Not at this time, no.
Thank you.
And I don't have any to my email as well.
So I'd like to move on to the consent agenda. There are several items on the consent agenda. I'd like to go around our board here to see if there is anyone one item or items that they would like to see discussed. And so I will start with you, Art.
Nope, nothing for me. Thank you.
Sandra,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Mark,
Nothing for me, thank you.
Bill, Bill. Not sure if Bill's on mute. Bill, okay. Oh, there you are. Hello. Bill, anything on the consent agenda that you'd like to discuss?
No, thank you, Madam President. And if you don't have anything either, I would like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I thank you for that. May I have a second?
Second.
We'll go around for a vote. Art? This is a vote.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Sandra?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
And Pamela Hamilton is also yes. We will move on to new business. Item number 9, to select a date for a special meeting in September.
So because we have 2 items on here that require a public hearing, we need to do a 10-day. And then once those 10 days have been exhausted, we need to call a special board meeting so that we can approve those. So I would like to recommend or make a recommendation that we choose Wednesday, September the 30th. I just want to make sure that is a Wednesday on my calendar. Sorry about that. I just want to double check. Wednesday the 30th at 5 o'clock for the special board meeting.
Do we need a motion to approve that?
Yes.
Any discussion from the board? Okay, can I get a motion to a special meeting on Wednesday, a special meeting for the board on Wednesday, the 30th of September?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Great, and we'll go around and we will vote on same. Art?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
And Pamela Hamilton is also a yes. The motion carries. September 30th is will be a special board meeting. 4:15?
Well, you can set it for 4:15 or 5. It's up to the board. What I would share with you is it's going to be very short because we'll only have those a few agenda items at that time.
We'll get back to you on the exact time. We're going to go down to number 10, curriculum and instruction. We're adopting the resolution of sufficiency of textbooks and standards aligned with instructional materials. This was what Janet just spoke about. May I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. And we'll do round robin. Art?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Pamela Hamilton is also an aye. The motion carries. Subject B, approve the changes to independent family and learning centers distance learning model.
So Janet has made a proposal to the board regarding some changes that we're making to the Independent Learning Center. And Janet, I'll let you explain those changes.
Okay. So we're calling it the Distance Learning Independent Learning Center because this is just to follow the regs that we have out from the State Department right now during distance learning. So when the distance learning goes back to regular school, then we'll go back to the regular IFLC program. So right now for distance learning, what they're asking is that the changes are that we have to have the kids have frequent contact with the teacher. And so we're defining right now frequent contact as 3 times a week. So because these kids are in IFLC, due to connectivity and due to inability to be able to be online for distance learning, we are trying to find a way to connect with the kids, but make it so that it could be doable. So once a week, they'll meet with their IFLC teacher, which is very traditional, where they go over their assignments and the teacher gives them a mini lesson on any content they need. Then what we'll do that's different is they will be offered a class, and it could be a STEM class, it could be an art class, any kind of a class, it could be a social emotional learning activity. And the reason for that the State Department is insistent on this is they really want us to make sure that the kids connect with other kids and that we make sure the kids are doing well. So they will have a choice of different classes throughout the week, and they will have to log in to do at least 1 class a week. Then our third contact is going to be, we have an instructional assistant that's going to be working with us, and they will call in, check in with the family, make sure things are going okay, see if they have any questions, and that will be our third level of contact. So that will help us address the frequent contact that they're asking for. The other thing they're asking for, which isn't really different than before, and that is to make sure that we have the minimum number of minutes for a minimum day. So they too, in independent learning, will also be doing the 4 hours a day for 1st through 8th grade, and kindergarten will be 3 hours. And the other thing that is different is we are going to give them grades. And the reason for that is we're hopeful we're going to get back into the school year, and a lot of these kids will go back into their classroom. And so we thought, so that we could keep that continuity, because that's what this plan is about, is how do we kind of keep it seamless. So we're going to give grades this year just during the distance learning time. And that's only because we're trying to create continuity. We're also using the curriculum that is the district curriculum, again, for continuity for the most, for the bulk of it. We do have a CELUS that they can do as an option for some online learning, and they may pull in some additional resources, but the bulk of it will most likely come from the district curriculum, or will come from the district curriculum. And so those are the changes, and we needed to go and get approval according to the rules and regs. So we need approval that this distance learning IFLC program is board approved.
Janet, who are the instructors from OCESD?
Well, the number one is Nicole, and we're in process. So I'm going to turn that over to Spencer, because that's more Spencer's.
So we have 2 other teachers that we've flown the position, and they've been offered the position. I will not mention them
okay.
tonight, because we're still in the process of finalizing everything.
Great.
But we have 2 more additional teachers that we're moving over from distance learning into the IFLC. And if our numbers, and then we're going to see where our numbers are at. We have a really long list of people who are interested, but we think we're starting to, as we start to get kids more connectivity, they're starting to come off that list. So if we need to add another teacher, which we may, we're already in the process of kind of working through that. So
Okay, thank you.
But those the 2 teachers that we're adding are veteran teachers, and they're highly qualified and well respected in the district.
Good, thank you. Any other questions or concerns from the board? So we'll go ahead and I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I make the motion that we approve the changes to the DLIFLC document as presented.
Thank you, Mark. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll go around and to understand if you approve. So Art,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
and then Pamela Hamilton is also a yes. The motion carries. We're going to move on to section 11 of the agenda, business and finance, adopting a resolution 2021-03 to establish a temporary interfund transfer. I'm assuming that's Andrew?
Yeah, so with the original budget, if you recall, and with the 45-day budget revision, we're going to have, the district is going to run out of cash at the end of the school year in the May-June timeframe. So in order to alleviate that problem, we're going to need to borrow cash. We've already reached out to a number of different lenders that do school, cash borrowing. But one of the requirements is that we borrow as much as we can interfund, I mean, amongst the funds we have, before we borrow cash from them. So this resolution allows us to do the interfund borrowing. So borrowing from the cafeteria fund, borrowing from capital facilities fund, to help alleviate the shortfall, though we don't have that much money in these other funds, so we're going to need to borrow funds as well. But this is sort of step one, and without this, we can't do any kind of borrowing. So this is, to me, a critical piece, and again, is just interfund borrowing between our own funds, so there's no interest or anything changing hands.
Okay, great. Board, any questions or concerns? Great, may I get a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay, Sandra is the first. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll go around. Art,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Bill,
Yes.
and Pamela Hamilton is also an aye. At this point, I would like to announce that we're going to adjourn the meeting. It's 5:53 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good to see you.